My name is Andrew Lamb. I'm with Four Leaf Performance here in Houston, Texas. So my why is I believe there's a better way to do things and share them with others. How I do that is through using processes and procedures that give us results. And what I deliver to the world is contribution. I add value in all of the things that I do. So that is my why, how, and what. Des, what's your why, how, and what?
Thanks, Andrew. So my why is to contribute. So what that means is, for me, I believe that success happens when I support other people to achieve their goals. So their causes rather than my own cause. How I do that, like your why, my how is better way. So I always strive to find a better way for businesses to build better teams, to build better profitability, build better systems and processes, but I suppose always trying to find a better way. And ultimately what I bring is a level of trust. So trust is very, very important to me. Trust is very, very important to the people that I work with. And unless there's a fit there, unless that trust works both ways, the coaching relationship just won't work. So trust is very, very important. And that's ultimately what I bring. So that's my why, my how, and my what.
Awesome. So Des, how did you get into the why, understanding the why? How did you get involved in this?
So I got involved obviously through yourself and Four Leaf Performance, who you had discovered your why. And when we discussed it, I said, yeah, absolutely, let's get some more information on it. And when I found out what my why actually was, it just made so much sense. It was, people often ask me why I got into coaching, and it was always because I love talking business. I love finding solutions that help businesses move forward. And it was always about finding a better way, actually. So I would have used that language even before actually knowing what my why and my how was. And it just made a huge amount of sense to me. So was delighted to get involved with yourselves and the Why Institute in helping lots of people discover their whys.
What do you think is the biggest benefit for business owners as you've engaged with them to understand their why?
I think for many of them, it's just clarity. It just brings that little bit of, okay, that makes sense. And I would have done quite a few of them. It's interesting. I did two actually on two people within the same company. One was a senior partner in the business, and one was someone who was more from an operational point of view, pulling together lots of programs and that type of stuff. But they had a very, very similar WHY.OS. Both of them had the why of make sense. Both of them had the how of mastery. But his was challenge, and hers was clarify. And when I went through their discoveries with them, one of the things, like, it was amazing. She just said, "Oh my God," she says, "you got me." She says, "This is absolutely me." She says, I've done lots of these. I've done lots of profiles and lots of assessments in the past," she says, "but my God," she says, "this really, really got me." And it was the part around what she brings and how it's what she brings, which was different. Because the managing partner used to challenge quite, openly, let's try this, let's do this, how can we do this, how can we do that, and thinking outside the box. And her job was to take all that in and to make it into manageable, understandable pieces and to clarify stuff. And it was just incredibly powerful to kind of get that understanding from someone. There was another chap that I did who used to talk about why he did stuff and heard me talking about it. And again, it kind of brought him back to, well, Jesus, why am I doing what I'm doing? And for him, it was finding better ways, and it was contributing to other people's success. So again, it just, he kind of felt, wow, he said it's taken him back to when he had started looking at it originally. And he had parked it for a while, and then felt it really powerful that he could go back into it and have a really good understanding of it. So yeah, they're just two examples.
Yeah, really powerful. It's a lot of fun when you discover somebody's why, right? As coaches, I think it's really fun to unlock and uncover what people's true motivation is and how they do it. And even more important, to give them the words, right? The ability to give them the words to use so that they can articulate who and what and how they do things, right? So it's giving them the vernacular, it's giving them those words that they can then express themselves easier.
Yeah, I think it is the language. You're right. It's the language that has been missing. And certainly even for me, I knew what I was doing and I knew how I was doing it. But when you can suddenly start using words which make a hell of a lot of sense,
Right.
then it just makes it so much easier to be able to explain to people why it is what I do, and what I ultimately bring and how I do it. And again, I think we both explained that in an earlier answer, but I think it brings the whole lot together. And again, I know there's the scientific side of it, which is, your why is very emotional and is not connected to the brain, the brain, the side of the brain that has words, and that's why it can be so difficult to express why you do what you do. But yeah, certainly understanding that makes a lot of sense.
So I think it's, to your point, it's the words, it's the vernacular that we need when we're having conversations. It's been having the ability to communicate, right? People communicate, but it's what you get back. So when you've got two parties that can't communicate, you get into this, unchangeable dynamic. And that happened with me, right? I was in a phase where I needed to move on. I needed to move into another role. I couldn't communicate what I wanted like you. I knew what I was doing and how I was doing it, but I couldn't express why. And not having the words of the vernacular hindered me from communicating that. Whereas on the other side, they were like, what do you want next? And if you can't communicate it, then how the heck are they meant to understand where you want to go? So between the two parties, we couldn't communicate. And that just led to frustration. It just led to, feeling lost and not understanding where we're going. And ultimately turned into, exiting, which was a lose-lose for everybody at the end of the day. So understanding that is really, really powerful for individuals.
Yeah, and I remember some of those conversations because we obviously go back a long way, myself and yourself, and I remember those conversations, and it was very much. I know we often talk about, are you in the right seat? Have you the right people in the right seats? And I think you definitely found yourself in the wrong seat.
Yeah,
not living your why, and that's obviously looking for a better way in your case, and I think it's funny because you weren't achieving that in the role that you were in. So,
and I think we all know. I mean, we all recognize when we're having a good time, right? When we're really enjoying what we're doing, we're really enjoying where we're going. The progress is there. We're having we're feeling successful, right? We're feeling engaged. We're feeling fulfilled. It's until that point, as you said, when the the brakes hit all of a sudden, you get to a point and it's like, where do I go now? What do I do now? What's the options I got? And I think that's one of the areas where a lot of people have trouble in communicating and articulating what's next. And people haven't been trained how to do this. And understanding your WHY.OS literally gives you the roadmap and the vernacular that you can use to have that authentic conversation and go, this is why I do what I do and how I do it and what I deliver. I need a role that does this for me and for you, because you're going to get more out of me. I'm going to be more productive, more fulfilled, and more engaged when I have a role that is in this realm. And I've seen this so many times with my clients where when you put them in that role and you get the right people in the right place, the organization just takes off. right? Because you've got highly motivated people in all of the different roles.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And I suppose for me, I have done a majority of the whys that I have done have been with, I'm going to call them maybe solopreneurs or people with one or two teams. So you probably don't get the full benefit from a growth perspective with a full team. And I think for me, that's the opportunity going forward, is to not just have it as a single why discovery, but really check in with people afterwards to find out what's changed. What has changed in your life? What has changed in your business? Are you more fulfilled? Or have you parked your why? And you know it, but the loss of potential is, well, you know your why and you know your how, but you're not actually using it maybe as much as you should or where you should. And I think that for me certainly is the potential to go back to people that we've done our why discoveries with and really see how it's affecting them, and from a positive, how it's impacting what they do and how it's impacting the people around them.
I think you bring up a great point. I think one of the things that I use all the time is when we're having a situation with clients that have done their why and understanding them at that level, 90% of the issues are caused because they're not living their why. And we have to go back and look at that and have that conversation. A client recently came to me and she was struggling with something, and everything was out of kilter for her. And we went straight back to the why. And I'm like, so how have you looked at your why with regards to this? And she's like, oh, I'm glad you brought that up, because I just feel unbalanced, and you just bringing that up. I said, great, let's bring that up. Let's have a look at the information that you have. And she went in and she brought up her why, which they all have. And I went, so what's the problem? Why are you experiencing what you're experiencing? Let's have a look at it from the why. And it literally dawned on her there and then, where it was, she was not living her why. She was outside of her why. She was struggling because she was being asked to do things that were not congruent with her WHY.OS. And when we literally redirected back into that one, within days, or I would even say within hours, she was back on track, focused on what needed to be done, making sure that she was leading the charge with her why, and then making sure she was enabling the team, because she needed to use some of the team's whys to do some of the activities. And when we incorporated the why in the decision making and putting people in the right spot to be leading some of the efforts, the light bulbs went on with everybody, and literally that problem was solved within days. Because they were, to your point, they went back to their why and used it. And now what I see all the time with this particular client is every conversation we have, it starts with, we revisited our why in this meeting and we were having this challenge and we solved it by understanding who was the right person to be leading this effort. And they are now great practitioners of using their whys in all of the engagements and conversations and decision making, and it's making life so much easier for them all.
I think there's two points in what you've just said there. So the first one is, and again, it's an old quote or an old saying, which is, when your why is powerful, your how is easy. I've heard a lot of people say that. The second part of it is, it can't be just when things are down that we have to go back and review our why. It, as you just finished what you've just said, it should be used at all times. It should be used to drive growth and drive the business forward, instead of getting it out of a hole when suddenly you've lost your mojo and you're not sure why you're facing challenges and why stuff is going wrong.
Yeah.
It should be used every day, to motivate and set you up for a good day or a good week. Because you're in tune with it. You're aligned with what it is or how it is you can contribute best to people using your why.
Yeah, I think people understanding that and learning it, And then, as you said, reusing it, reuse it, reuse it. Make it right. Make it memory muscle, right? Everybody goes to the gym and does, muscle memory, right? If you're a soccer player, baseball player, tennis player, right? You're learning muscle memory. The Kobe Bryants of the world, when he used to go and do his drills, right? He was an advocate for doing the basics all the time, right? Focus on the fundamentals all the time, because everything is built on fundamentals. Do the fundamentals all the time. And he spent hours and hours and hours and hours just doing fundamentals. And I think we lose that in business, that we're always looking for shiny things. We're always looking for the next thing. We kind of lose focus with regards to what are the fundamentals. And there's nothing more fundamental than, why do you do what you do? I mean, it is the essence of who you are, right? So if you're not working on your fundamental, and don't understand your fundamental, and you're not using your fundamentals, then no wonder we're getting exhausted and we're mentally and physically tired, because we're living outside of our why instead of leaning into it, right?
Oh, absolutely. And I think that it's the same. It's the same conversation, but when your why isn't so powerful, you start losing your way, and your way is how you do stuff. And it's amazing the amount of people who, you go in and have a conversation. Do you do this or do you do that? And they would say, actually, we used to. When we started, we used to do that because it was the way we did things. And then we got busy, and then we stopped. So if it was a better way, finding a better way, or if it was doing things the right way, or making sense of things, it kind of stopped when you became challenged, and it became just do the follow the path of least resistance nearly to get you through, because you suddenly became so busy working in the business that you forgot all this stuff. And I think having your why, it is a good description, it's the essential first step. And it is, but you got to keep taking that step. You got to remember what that step was, because it's very easy to stand still again and not take that step.
Yeah, I love the quote by the Iron Cowboy: "One more step. Just take one more step." And he did the 101 marathons back to back, right? And his whole mantra was just take one more step, right? And what was his purpose as he was doing it? He kept remembering what his purpose was, to take that next step, or to take that next arm pull, or to pedal that next pedal, right? It's what was his purpose, right? Why was he doing what he was doing? And he was doing a lot of good for the world in the money that he was raising. But in his mind, it was just take the next step. And that was all it was, right? Whether it took him 4 hours to do it or 15 hours to do it, right? It was take one more step.
Yeah, it was funny. I was only reading something yesterday, and again, it was similar kind of a story, but it was about this ultra runners. Is that what they call? They kind of just run and run and run. Yeah. And for them, even like they're going to have a bad day too. And it's not about running 50 miles. It's about running to the next tree. And if that's tough, it's just take the next step. As you say, just take the next step. Just keeping that next step until you get in past that moment of weakness, we'll call it. And you're back to where you want to be, and your focus is right again. And as you say, your purpose suddenly kicks you back in. But there are going to be times when just focus on the next step.
Yeah. So, Des, let's change a little bit of a topic and how this plays into. But right now, I mean, the world is in some turmoil. There's economic challenges that are going on around the world, and business owners are having to make some really tough decisions with regards to where's the business going, how do they fulfill the business, who in the team is helping the organization to grow and where to go. And unfortunately, a lot of organizations literally look at spreadsheets. They look at spreadsheets with regards to, where they're going to cut, or how they're going to cut, or what they're going to do, or what organizations are going to do. How would you use the why from like an executive position? How would you use the why in in looking at your business and your organization in this type of economy?
Yeah, I'm kind of at odds to even use the economy in any situation when you're talking about why. It goes back to what I said in an earlier question where we spoke about having the right people in the right seats. And I think during any economic downturn, you're going to challenge that more. Do I have the right people? Do I need to let some people go? And if you do, then you need to make sure that you're not letting go the wrong people. So are they the right fit? And are they in the right seats? So if you've got better way people, or you've got right way people, or you've got your simplifiers, then you need to just make sure that they are, number one, in the right seat, in the right department, adding value. And if not, could you move them to another area where they will add even, I suppose, more value? And I think for me, it's doing a complete audit of your team. If you haven't done a why with them, then obviously using the why would help. It's a tool which is available and powerful. And I think taking that approach would allow you to assess who you've got, and if you do need to make harsh decisions, then identify who are the people who are going to continue to serve the needs of the business and you as a business owner with the greatest impact. And would you take a slightly different approach would be a question. So what would you feel would be a similar or different?
So I think I would go and challenge the company's why. So I'd actually look and relook at the company's why. Where's the company going? What's their why? What's their purpose? How are they going to get there, and what are they going to deliver? So I would look at the company's why, what's their mission, and then from there, then start looking at the team members. Who in the team is going to help the organization achieve that purpose, that why? Then looking at it from there. So again, as you said, it's a dual approach, right? So it's looking at who do we need, what does the organization need with regards to the seats on the bus, and then who are the right people to put in those seats, right? Who's motivated, who's driven, what's their purpose, how are they going to do it, and what they're going to deliver, so why? And then do we have the right people in the right seats to drive that bus going forward, right? Because again, as I've looked at organizations in the past, leadership is to inspire others to achieve the overall goals. But the goal of leadership, right, is to inspire others. And as Richard Branson says, right, his three methods of success: one, create the vision for the business, make sure it's crystal clear so everybody's got the right vision, hire the right people to go do it, and then get the heck out of the way. That's his methodology, and very, very successful businessmen doing that. But again, I go back to what is that vision? What's the mission? What's the purpose of the organization? And if the team isn't aligned to that purpose, then how are we expected to deliver on that purpose? So I think it's a twofold conversation: is what's the purpose of the organization or even department? And then who are the people that are best suited through their why, right? Because they're motivated, they're driven to help succeed that and drive that. And unfortunately, too many times I've seen these decisions made on an Excel spreadsheet. And I've done that myself, right? I've made those hard decisions based upon, data and information and budgets and headcounts and targets that we all had to have. And we always looked at, are they the right person? But to be perfectly frank, I don't think we ever knew at the deepest level, like we can understand now, people's purpose, their why, their how, and their what. So we were actually missing a key component from that conversation when we made those decisions in the past. That I think we would have changed some of the decisions that we had back then now.
Yeah, and I would agree that the role of leaders and the role of leadership within a business is to inspire, but
Mm-hmm.
it is also to make those tough decisions when the need arises.
Right.
It's like everything else. The data doesn't lie,
Mm-hmm.
and that's why a lot of people rely on data and information. However, this is also data. Like someone's WHY.OS is also data and
Mm-hmm.
needs to be included in the decision. It may not ultimately change the decision, but it certainly needs to be taken into account as to, there is a value in knowing someone's why and how and what, as well as other pieces of information and data which people are going to use to make tough decisions.
Mm-hmm.
So by all means, it just becomes another tool to add to your information at hand to make those tough decisions. And as much as, as much as that may include laying people off, that's a tough decision. But, again, leaders have to make those decisions every day. But
Mm-hmm.
all the WHY.OS for me is, it's just more information to help you make the right decision.
Right. Yeah, as you said, it's data, right? It's a data point, and it's a human data point. It's the human data point rather than a balance sheet data point. Because again, I always look at human capital, right? Is the most valuable asset of any company is it's your team, right? They are the people that are in front of your customers. They're the people that are doing the work that you can't, right? We see these organizations where the business owner owns the business, but they can't be in all places at all times. So you've got to rely on the team to execute on the work that needs to be done. So therefore, the most valuable asset of any company is its human capital. And I would argue that the human capital is not being fully understood to the level that we can understand it today. And that's common, right? As we see developments in the world, these new discoveries or assessments that are available from there, that we can truly understand people. What I find with the why is that this is like DISC. It's usable around the world. We've done it around the world, as you and I have done. We've done clients all over the world. And the accuracy of the why is pretty incredible. I mean, understanding people at the level that we uncover and literally talk to them and discover them, and they understand themselves probably better than they've ever known themselves before. So having that data point, having that knowledge, understanding that human capital, I think is absolutely invaluable in today's world, so that we can use those data points and we can use that knowledge to make even better decisions as we move forward.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that, actually, because I was having a conversation with a client today around putting together like a playbook or a best practice for the business and recruitment. Obviously, sorry, people management came up as, we need to make sure there's a section included in there. People. We kind of broke it into three simple breakdowns. One was recruitment, second was induction, and third was retention.
Mm-hmm.
So the first one is recruitment. And what's your system? What's your process? And certainly DISC and why assessments and discoveries should be included in recruitment, particularly obviously more senior people within a business. And do they fit? Is that the type of person that you're looking for?
Mm-hmm.
Because you might have the right process, that you're reading off CVs and you're meeting people and they seem to fit, but maybe they don't. Maybe you don't want a challenger in the position that you're recruiting for because it's not the right fit for that particular business or position within the business. And maybe you're looking for someone who can either simplify a task because that's the role you're looking to recruit, and you overlay why with DISC, and it gives you an amazing view of a person even before they start the business. You look at their strengths, you look at their communication, their ability to communicate with people and how to communicate with people. And again, it's just another box ticked in relation to this person looks like could be a really, really good fit.
Yeah. Yeah, I've got another example of that. I mean, recently, I was told of an incident with somebody that we did recently. They were looking for college students doing an internship, pretty competitive to get an internship, and they were in front of a financial house. And this individual's why was trust. How they did it was right way, and what they delivered was contribute value. And the individual young man sat in front of this pretty large panel, and they said, "So tell us about yourself." And he said, "I believe in building trusting relationships that others can rely on. And how I do it is by using processes and procedures and delivering the right results. And what I want to do is to deliver value in everything that I do. That's who I am." And literally that panel went, "Hold on, say that again?" And he went through it again, and they were like, somebody turned around and said, "That's the type of person we want. That's the person," right? And in 3 lines, they were literally able to distinguish themselves above everybody else because they had that knowledge. And it literally told the panel of who they wanted. So they literally were able to go, "That's the profile I want right there." And that individual has been working with them and extended their internship through the year and has been called back multiple times to do it. So it was literally a brilliant fit for that role that they were looking for, and they were highly appreciative that that little interview was literally minutes, because it was like it fitted so perfectly for what they were looking for. So I think, to your point, being able to go back and articulate who you're looking for, and then when you find that person, it's a really good fit. It's like a really nice glove, right? It just slides on nice, it fits snugly, and it's the right person for the right role for that particular period of time. But it's great when you find that person.
It is, but it's an interesting opportunity for people who are currently looking for their next step on their ladder or their next part of their journey to really understand what their why is at an early stage, to identify whether their why fits the business that they're applying for. So for someone to be able to articulate so well what their why, their how, and their what is in that environment, wouldn't it be great to be able to ask the question, so what is it you guys stand for? So what is your why? What is your purpose and your vision? Because I want to make sure that it's a fit for what I believe, where I add value or where I excel.
Yeah, most people forget that interviews are a two-way street, right? Not only are they interviewing you, but you're interviewing them as a good fit.
Yeah.
And I think you bring up a great point, right? So if you understand your why, it allows you to go and apply for roles that truly drive your purpose, right? That is really going to fit. But I love your point. You should be asking the organization, so what is your why? What is your purpose? How do you do things? What do you deliver? So that you are searching for a good fit for you. Because, again, knowing yourself is one thing. You got to know what you're walking yourself into, right? Because you're going to spend a lot of hours in that organization per week, right? Up to 40 hours a week in those organizations. That's a lot of time that you're investing in there. So I think you're right. You should be. We should remind people to interview the companies they're interviewing from their perspective. That if you know yourself, great, but how well do you know the company that you're going to be working for, right? And are you a good fit, right?
But there has to be hundreds and thousands and multiples of that around the world of people who are looking for their next step, and what advantage it would be for them to invest in their WHY.OS to give them that advantage that when they do go into an interview, they can so clearly articulate exactly what their why is and what they're going to bring to that organization. Like that, I would have that example you gave. I'd have taken the guy on the spot because he knew who he was and he knew what he could bring to the organization and was well able to articulate it. So, he certainly would have stood out way above a lot of the other candidates who would have gone in for that job, simply because, as you said, in those 3 sentences, he was able to articulate so well what he was going to bring.
Yeah, and it's one of the things that we do now is as we're going through that, right? So we have conversations with companies that are hiring, and we actually get them for their top candidates. We actually do their why and disc because they've got to meet. And when we have those conversations, I literally joke with them. It's, at the very beginning, it's like, I'm going to know you better than your mama knows you, and they all go, yeah, yeah. At the end of it, they were like, you do. Right? We literally know them better than their own family knows them, and most of the time better than they know themselves at the end of the day. But being able to frame that in a few words, in a few sentences, and understanding where they're going, how they're going to perform, how well they're going to perform, how well they're going to communicate. Is there going to be challenges within the organization of communication, right? Understanding this, but understanding all of that and having all of that in front of the employee and the employer when they sit down and go, now is it a good fit? And I got to say, 99.9% of the time, we've done some very successful hires into the organizations because they fit nicely and they're growing the business, right? It's all about growing the business that we're working on. So those people coming in are always great fits based upon that, right? The trial and error disappears.
But here's an interesting take on that one. So you have mentioned that you do that with companies for people who they are employing.
Yes.
So imagine their reaction if you were reaching out to say, how you doing? You're applying for a job with such and such limited, and we're going to send you a link to your why and your disc, so that it's part of the recruitment process. For them to say, don't bother, I already know my why, I have it taken, I know exactly what I can bring to the organization. Again, that candidate stands out as someone who, wow, okay, this guy really is ahead of the competition.
Yeah.
And I just think that is a really amazing opportunity for people to get themselves ahead of their competition. In business we talk about having a USP or a market dominating position, but as an employee, as a candidate going for a job, imagine that as being your MSP, and that's putting you way above your competition, is understanding your why and possibly understanding your disc in advance, and saying that's how I fit in this business.
Yeah. Well, it's really interesting, and again, we're working with a lot of businesses, and there's a lot of of course, there's younger people always coming into the organizations. One of the things that we're seeing, especially with the Google age team members that are coming into organizations, one of the things that we're finding is that those individuals don't truly know who they are. They've been told who they are through the internet. They've been told by everybody that they've met on social, and everybody's got an opinion and things like that. And what we're finding is that a lot of the younger team members are lost. They don't know who they are. They haven't discovered, truly who they are, because they've been wrapped up in the internet world, and they've got a lot of opinions that are coming. I mean, thousands of opinions that come at them all day, and being told how they should be. But one of the challenges that those individuals have got is truly who am I? And I think one of the things that we've done, and I was talking to a group the other day, and they shared some experience around this as well, is when you sit down with a younger team member that doesn't have years of experience, when you truly unlock who they are, it is absolutely mind changing and life altering, because they literally find out for the first time who they really are at their essence, and they don't understand that this is part of who they are, because they've been told who they are by all of these other voices, right, and influencers and all of these other people around them. And not knocking any of those groups, but they're absorbing this all the time, right? So they're constantly being barraged with information. And when you truly sit down with younger members, team members, and truly discover who they are and give them this vernacular and this understanding and this knowledge. Honestly, I think these are the biggest light bulbs that go off for them, because they don't know how to discover this information. They don't know who they are. Actually, one of the biggest searches out there is, who am I?
Hmm.
And we can literally do that in minutes for them. I think it's about 15 minutes is the process of the discovery. But you literally discover who you are at your essence in 15 minutes. So this constant search, right, can be solved in 15 minutes. And I think it also gives, these team members the knowledge, the information that they need to make some other steps in their life. Are you seeing that as well, Des?
Yeah, I think COVID had a lot to do with that. I mean, people have said isolation and, working and studying remotely and losing connections with friends, and that has had a big effect on people. And I think we're going to find huge kind of mental health difficulties, challenges over the next couple of years, when we really find out the true cost of what that actually looks like. But I think, my only question is, at what stage do people, young people, teenagers, really want to, or really know what their why is? At what stage? Certainly by 15, 16, 17, I'm sure that is the case. And at that stage, they are thinking of careers for themselves. So, it could shape a career. It could help them avoid going into something that really doesn't suit them at the end of the day.
Yeah. I mean, I always laugh. It's like people ask, what do you want to do when you grow up? And I'm like, I don't know, right? How do you expect a 17 or 18-year-old to know what they want to do?
Yeah.
I mean, I remember when we were growing up, right? We had no idea what we were going to do, right? At that stage, right? We were studying, we were working, we were having fun, and probably we had a bit of too much fun when we were growing up. But if you asked us then what we were going to do, we hadn't a clue. We had no idea what we were going to do at that stage, right? And having
and probably rightly so.
Probably rightly so, yes.
There's a time and a place. There is definitely a time and a place where this should become part of a curricular or part of a program to really help you discover who you are. And I would include why and disc or something similar to really let people understand your communication style. And it's not about necessarily your style, but it's how to communicate with other styles, and understand other styles. So, and why is no different. Understanding someone who has the why of challenge is not because, I thought it was because they didn't like me. Okay, that's just the way they operate, and I'm different.
I think we use the term all the time. It's, you see the world through your glasses. Don't expect everybody to see the world through your glasses, right? So your why is different to my why, right? I see the world in a different way, right? You're a contributor. I'm a better way. I'm always looking at the world from a better way. You're always looking at it from a contribution point of view, right? But you see the world through those eyes. I see the world through my eyes. The understanding that you look at it that way and I look at it that way, that knowledge is powerful, because now we understand each other, right? We understand how we operate and why we do what we do. And humans are all different, which is awesome, right? But having that knowledge is power, right? That knowledge to understand why people do what they do is very, very powerful, and explains a huge amount of things that we all go through in our lives, right?
But again, taking that to the next step, I mean, you might come across someone who just seems to ask so many questions, and you're thinking, oh my God, are they mad? Or did I not understand? Why are you asking so many questions? That's because they're clarifiers. They need to ask all these questions, because once they have all the information, they can make it so easy for everybody else.
Right.
And I think it just makes so much sense to understand that, so.
Yeah, to your point, using people for their strengths, right? Let's use their strengths, right? And everybody's, and let's be clear, everybody's why, how, and what, all of the things that we look at, There are strengths, right? Everybody has a why. There are powerful things to that why, but there's also parts that we've got to be careful with, right? So you said clarifiers, right? Clarifiers want to clarify, clarify, clarify. The challenge with that is they're not listening. So one of the things that we bring is a solution to that, right? So my solution for clarifiers is you're not allowed to ask the third question until you play back the second answer that you got, right? Makes sense, people, right? It's you've got to sit on your hands and, because they think so quickly, right? Somebody comes into the room, you've got to ask, do you want me to solve the problem or do you want me just to listen? Right? I have a client that says, now 75% of the time people come into his office, when he asks that question, it's just to listen. And he was working so hard to figure out and answer all the questions. Now he's like, my day's a lot easier because I just asked that question. People just want to be heard. So understanding the challenge of your why and how and what, and the solutions that can help you overcome that challenge also leads to a little bit of an easier life. I'll tell you right now, as a better way person, I'm always wanted to do things a better way. In my office, Emma will come in and she says, it's good enough. That's the trigger, right? That is the words that we use. It's good enough. Stop trying to do it a better way. And we stop, right? Done, right? Stop doing it.
my how is a better way. And
yes.
Similarly, you get stuff from clients and you kind of tweak here and a little word here and a little word there, and it must bug the hell out of them that he's always tweaking it. He's always, and you kind of say, yeah, that's just the way I am. There's always a better way of saying it or a better way of getting it across. Or, just before I got on this call, I was working with another client who was putting a kind of a 2-minute presentation together. And she was worried it was too long. So again, better way, let's put it into a teleprompter, find out, well, actually you're only 2 minutes and 20 seconds. So it's great. So we took out some words and we put in other words and we got there, and I think it was really, really good. And she appreciated the fact that, oh, this is great. I've never used this before. Let's do it as you go type thing. And we changed a few words and we got a script for it. It was 2 minutes and 0 seconds at the end of it. And it was just amazing that that's the way it worked out. But so again, the advice to her was, listen, record yourself on the teleprompter app. Listen back to it 3 times. First time, listen back to it with the phone down. Just listen to the words. Second one was play it back, this time with the volume down, and just to see where your hands are, see what movements you have, and then the third time, listen back to it as it is, sound and she said, "Oh my God, that's a great idea," So
right.
Again, it's just trying to find that better way, and sometimes you step over the mark and you have to say, you know what, like as you just said, it's fine. Actually, run with that. It's perfect. And let them off, because otherwise you could be there till 2 weeks just trying to get back on a script that doesn't need 2 weeks worth of adjustments, if we're being honest.
Yeah.
So let me ask you a question. So obviously the Why Institute themselves has an ambition of helping over 1 billion people discover their why. So at 4Leaf in 2024, what's your ambition? How many people can we realistically expect to help and support in discovering their why?
How many people can we do in 2024? We can help individuals one at a time. We can help organizations, groups at a time, or we can help stadiums, thousands of people at a time. So I think the great thing with the why is, and the system that we use and the processes that are there, we can literally help individuals, groups, and stadiums of people in the same amount of time. It's that powerful, and we have the tools to do that. So how many people could I do? I mean, I could do 10,000 people a week, right? If if we had a stadium and we had, the NRG here in Houston, right? The NRG can hold 80,000 people. Am I committing to do 80,000 people in 1 week? No, but it's possible, right? We could literally fill the NRG stadium and literally do 80,000 people at a time. I've done groups of 20, 30, 40 people around the world through Zoom. I've done that, and we can do it live. It's pretty darn easy from the user's perspective and the deliverer's perspective. We have a process in which we can do it, but I want to be doing, at least a couple of thousand people a month. And that's why I've engaged and started to spread the word, not just here in Houston and the United States, but why we've extended this out into Ireland and the UK and to South Africa, and helping with, my good friends Des and Luke, spread the word around those locations as well, because I think it's so powerful. I think the impact that it's had on me and the clarity that it's given me, I just think it's one of the most critical tools, and I'm using it around with everybody that I know, and the response that I get is so positive all the time, that it's like, wow, I didn't know this. Wow, this explains a lot. Wow, I wish I'd known this before. Well, why can't you know it now? I mean, you can know it now. I did one yesterday, a gentleman. We're using this with people that are acquiring businesses right now. So understanding who you are as you acquire a business. As they're acquiring those businesses, they literally have 90 days to absorb, 20 years of business knowledge into a system, into a process, and learn their team. Guess what? I can know their team in 15 minutes. Truly what motivates them, what drives them, and then doing a disc profile on how to communicate to them. The whole package is an hour investment per person. And I literally am able to understand that whole team in probably an hour. So we can do this we can scale this up into hundreds to thousands of people at a time. And it's literally, we actually do it live. So we put up the discovery up on the screen, everybody does it on their phone, and literally within 10, 15 minutes, I'm putting results up on a screen of what people's why, how, and what is, and you literally have that. And you walk away with that knowledge, and then with that knowledge, you also get an email which gives you more information and deeper information into that. So to answer your question, my goal is to do thousands a month. We've just got to get up on stage. We've just got to get into these organizations. And that's our plan in 2024, is to do more and more and more of these, at every different level.
Let's go fill those stadiums.
Let's go fill these stadiums. You've got to go fill Crow Park, and I'll go fill the NRG stadium.
I'll try and do a Garrett Brooks on it. I'll fill it 5 times. Right, I need to make a move.
All right. Thank you, Des. Appreciate it.